Ezekiel Elliott, Jalil Okafor, Ben Simmons, Johnny Manziel, Anthony Davis, Cam Newton, Kevin Durant, and most recently, Duke freshman phenom Zion Williamson. What do they all have in common? All of them participated and played in NCAA Division I athletics. This poses the question, should college athletes be paid to play? For the first time in its 112-year history, the NCAA in 2017 made over $1 billion in the 2016-17 school year. The majority of this revenue came from the 2017 NCAA men's basketball tournament, where $761 million was generated. The first interview we conducted was with Coach Bill Winke, a professor of kinesiology at North Central College. Here is our interview with Coach Winke. Morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good, Matt. How are you?
Good. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this for me.
No problem. Thanks for including me in your project.
No problem. So today we're going to be talking about the topic, should college athletes be paid, specifically Division I. A lot of revenue comes from men's basketball and men's football.
Two biggest sources of income for athletic programs.
Absolutely. And over the past academic year from 2016 to 2017, NCAA generated for the first time $1 billion. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think I think every organization needs a governing body. You could get into long discussions on the merits of, the Board of Governance for the NCAA. I see good in it, but I also see bad. The number one thing you look at it is the topic we're going to talk about. Sports at the NCAA Division I level is a multi-million-dollar business. And it is what it is, and they can sugarcoat it all they want. It's still, in the end of the day, they are cranking out amazing amounts of money, year in and year out, on institutions.
So, Coach, who do you believe is pushing harder for the change, the NCAA or the college athletes themselves?
College athletes, I would say college athletes, hand down.
Okay.
Because I think we're getting to the point now where Northwestern, 3 years ago, decided to organize a athletes union type situation. I think that's more on their mind. The kids are not stupid. They know what the NCAA is making. And when you start making money, which they are, and all of a sudden kids are getting hurt, why do you think kids are dropping out of bowl games now?
Yeah.
And not playing? It's like, granted, it'll affect my draft status or whatever, but still they're trying to protect themselves. So they woke up one morning as the years have gone by and said, wait a minute, you're making multi-millions of dollars, and I'm just beating the living daylights out of my body. I'm running the risk of getting hurt. Maybe I have a chance at a professional career, maybe I don't, but still, at the end of the day, you're making money and I'm just basically being your employee. And you might say the perk is always, hey, you're getting a full ride. You should be happy with that. And there's nothing wrong with that, they are. But when you compare the degree with billions, I can understand the questions.
All right, Coach. So, if paid, do you think college athletes would help their families with the sum of money that they were getting from playing the sport, or what do you think they would do with that money?
Well, first of all, a full scholarship athlete, as I remember, you get laundry money. It's a minimal amount of money. It allows you to do just a minimal amount of things. I think it used to be termed as your laundry money. And maybe if you were smart with it, you could get a little Jimmy John's money. But it is a minimal amount of money, and you can only go so far. If they were to be paid, first of all, the argument is going to be over how much you're paying. And what would they do with it? I'll be honest with you. I would tend to say that they would save it for their own personal life. Since you don't have a whole lot of spending money, I would tend to say that they would use it for school needs, going out, whether it's food, going out to meet their buddies at a bar, whatever. I don't, unless, now if it was a large amount, which I highly doubt, the NCAA would kick in a significant amount of money. I think they would lean more towards the idea of just giving you a bump X so you have a little extras in your life. I don't think it would be enough to say, hey, Mom, Dad, I got a chance to give you $20,000 put towards a down payment on a new home or something like that. I don't think the NCAA would ever do that.
All right, Coach, final question. If paid, do you believe that the NCAA has a responsibility to equally or unequally compensate athletes based on their skill level?
Would be a total, to me, it would set off a total controversy. If you're going to pay athletes, male or female, again, across the board, you have to do it evenly. Because otherwise, you're going to walk into a situation, let's take a football team. What are you going to do? Pay all what you deem as your very best players? Your 5-star recruits and the 4 stars get less money, and then the 3 stars get even less. You think for 5 seconds, eventually that's not going to lead to team sports. There's a bonding. You play team sports for certain values. To me, you would ruin all that, because eventually you would say, and what if I'm a 3-star and end up being a quote star of the team, and I'm outperforming a 5-star that's making more money than me? No, I think it would be a train wreck. It would be a terrible decision. To me, if you're going to pay athletes, you pay them all the same amount of money.
So at the end of the day, Coach, do you think Division I athletes should be paid? Yes or no?
Without a doubt. Like you said, the new statistics that the NCAA is now making over $1 billion, there's no way in the world that they cannot find out a way to figure out an X amount of dollars that you would pay each student athlete. The issue that it's going to be is, that'll block this and it'll become the big hurdle is, what are we going to do? Pay this only the sports that resonate big dollars for us? So football, basketball. What is track and field going to say? What is tennis going to say? What's swimming going to say? Because the lesser sports are going to, wait a minute, you look at the revenue each of them generate. All right, we can pay a basketball program a little bit more, but we'll pay the tennis, the swimming team, they're going to get a lesser amount. I could maybe kind of understand that, but I have no problem with paying athletes, because they're doing a lot of stuff. They're doing a lot of work for the institution. And a lot of institutions, I know in our faculty meeting at the start of the year, the #1 school in the state of Illinois that kids left for, University of Alabama. What is everybody, when you say Alabama, what do you think?
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban and the 5 national championships, Roll Tide. Kids end up going to say, I want to go there. It's a big time school. So the dollars do a lot to influence kids. So no, they're making tons of money. They can afford to pay it.
The second interview that we conducted was with North Central College's head athletic director, Jim Miller. Here is our interview with Jim.
Being an athletic director and an ex-football and wrestling coach, what is your stance on the notion that Division I athletes should be paid to play?
Right. Well, that's a great question, and really it's geared as much and how this whole subject came about was based on the billion-dollar contracts that TV has with men's basketball and football. And obviously the women's basketball that goes along with it, but the real money generator from that standpoint. So there's always that statement that that all the sports, that's their moneymaker, and that's the big one. And yet, ironically, football, about 89% of all Division I playing football schools lost money last year. It's the Power 5 conferences that made money in the sport of football. Now, basketball is different because of getting 68 teams in and such like that. But as far as and then how the scholarships are divvied out. Because having coached football at a Division III school and having played here, well, I'm a 5'6" quarterback coming out of high school. I had 0 scholarship offers. They went 6'5", not 5'6", and everything. And that's really the difference between the divisions. But at the Division I football playing level, they can give 85 full scholarships, and they cannot split them. They can't split them like they can do any other sport besides basketball. So first of all, basketball and football are the two that cannot split. Now then you look at the Division I, now you start separating it out. Division I, what kind of, is it a Power 5 conference? Because right now in the sport of football, if you're not in a Power 5 conference or Notre Dame, you cannot even play for a national championship. Every other sport you can. And so to actually, pay them for their likeness, no one's paying anybody for the likeness of somebody on the men and women's tennis team or the wrestling team or this or that. It really is driven by those two sports. And so I really do not believe, that even at this point in time that we should be paying at Division I, that you should be paying them to get all of that paid for by the institution at many, many state universities that are publicly supported, and then pay them on top of it.
If paid, how would an athletic director like yourself compensate players if so? And based on skill, would it be based on skill level, or would there be another criteria for that?
Right. That's a great question, because now you start to talk about, you have to look at Title IX. You have to. And you have to consider not only gender, but I think if I had any input as an athletic director, which most Division I schools, they'll have a significant input, but it's a matter of fairness and equity, because they already know at the University of Michigan, who's the highest paid employee in the entire state of Michigan, as far as state supported? Well, it's Jim Harbaugh, and yet how is that fair to the swimmer on the team that's maybe a national champion? And so the question would be, if we're going to pay you, should we not pay all of our student athletes the same amount?
If college athletes were paid, how would that affect school? And do you think athletes would fall behind on their schoolwork because they've been given less incentive because they're making so much money if they were paid?
Well, they still have to be eligible by NCAA standards. So that's the first thing. And you got to remember, if you go to, when we were playing in 2013, we played Bethel University in the quarterfinals to go to the in the football playoffs. And when we had to go up there, we were both undefeated at the time. Well, we stopped by the University of Minnesota and we practiced there. And they gave us a tour of the facilities to myself and a couple other people. And I met the AD and things like that. And they had a tutor system that was set up to only, they had 15 people just to work with football tutors, full time, and the athletes. So basketball and football, and that was their primary area, and all they did was work with the student athletes and making sure they're eligible. So first of all, they have to be eligible at NCAA standards, which that would be 1.5 GPA first year, 1.75, 2.0, 2.0. And then you have to make academic progress towards graduation. So you have to pass, and like in our case, it was 8 hours, 16 hours, 24, 48, 72. And so we only follow the NCAA rules. And so that's what they would absolutely have to do as well. But let's just take a prime example that you see all the time, University of Kentucky in basketball with John Calipari. Well, they're gone for weeks on end. Those guys that are one and done, which like a couple of years ago, they had 5 of their starters dropped in the first round of the NBA. They make sure that they got enough classes, and the classes they take will get them over a 1.5 threshold. Okay? And then most of them, they even admit it, so they just stop going to class second term because they're going to the NBA. So the fall term they pass, the spring term it doesn't matter, but they're in, or they've got to do their piano and their theater or whatever, extracurricular or co-curricular. So I would absolutely not support that. But that question was asked yesterday.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.